over it. So first I'll start by saying that we are governed by the World Anti-Doping Agency. We are not operating in a vacuum. We are monitored and governed by the World Anti-Doping Agency, and its work is to make sure that the programs that are carried out in any country across the world, they are harmonized. That in every country, whatever they are doing, it's done uniformly across the world. So we are under World Anti-Doping Agency, and their headquarters is in Canada, and yeah, they are at Montreal. The Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya is a creation of the, it came about because of the pressure that we were given by Rwanda, and we were created in the year 2016 by an act of parliament. So we are a legal entity, and therefore we are mandated in carrying out the anti-doping programs in this country. So our programs include education and testing, and these are the main ones, the key programs under two departments. We have the education and research as a department, and we have standards and compliance. The two, we have different roles, and we complement each other. So under our mandate, as I said, the two departments, the Department of Standard and Compliance carries out doping tests in order to catch on the cheats, and therefore give a fair play to all athletes. And I don't want to go to each and every item in this presentation, because I know that the time is limited. I was told my time is 20 minutes. So let me go straight to the governing document. For the anti-doping programs to be effective, we are governed by two bodies, the government and the sports movement. Under the government, we are controlled by the UNESCO International Convention Against Doping in Sport, which we ratified in the year 2009. And once you ratify, you are expected to start the programs on the fight against doping in sport. And that's why when we delayed in the year 2011, we were threatened with a ban to London Olympics, and that's how we created what we called CANDA. And when the World Anti-Doping Agency, when they realized that we created an agency, they allowed us to participate in London 2012. But later they realized that that body was not legally established, and therefore 2016 they started again threatening us. And that's how the creation of ANDAC through an act of parliament came about. For sports movements, we are guided by two documents, that is the World Anti-Doping Code and the international standards. Those are the main ones. But under the standards, we have several of them. It's not just one. There are several standards, and they are all related to the code. The code is a set of rules that guide us in how we should carry out our programs and what is expected of us. If you don't follow the code, then you are declared non-compliant. So we use the international standards in order to effectively achieve our mandate. The first standard, international standard, is called testing and investigations. That one, it guides the Department of Standards and Compliance on how to carry out their testing, so that they don't do it differently from other countries. Then we have another standard called therapeutic use exemption, which is used it's used to give athletes that have genuine medical cases exemption from using prohibited substances. Then we have the laboratories as a standard where you cannot test your samples anywhere in whatever lab. There are those which are water accredited. Therefore, that standard of laboratories, it guides us on how where to take our samples, how they should be analyzed and all that. Prohibited list is a list of prohibited substances and methods, and it is reviewed every year. It comes in effect every January with whether there are new medications included in it or others subtracted, then it comes into effect in January. The other standard is called protection of personal or privacy and personal information. That one guides us on that we cannot expose any athlete in whatever information we may have found while testing them or when talking to them. We have another one called standard for signatory compliance to signatories. That one it's a standard that controls the federations. One like you, rugby, there's a standard that you are supposed to follow in order to remain compliant. It gives a set of rules on what federations and other signatories should do in order to remain compliant to the fight against doping in sport. There are other standards, but they will come into effect in January next year. Like the International Standard for Education is coming into effect in January next year, 2021. Then we have another standard coming into effect in January, resource management. The standard for resource management is coming into effect in January. So we have those instruments to guide us on how to carry out our programs. The code has been revised severally. The first one came into effect in the year 2004, but from there it has been revised twice. Now it is twice. When we get to January 2021, we will be having the fourth code to be in effect. So for now we have the 3 editions, but the fourth one will come out in January next year, and we are aligning our documents to that code so that we can whatever we are doing, we will be aligned to that. So those are the documents that we use. There's also a requirement that signatories be, the stakeholders be signatories to the code. Those signatories to the code does include federations, national and international. It includes countries, and it includes NANDOS, that is agencies like us. It also includes RANDOS, that the regional bodies. That's why the registration to as a signatory has a higher number than any other. So the signatories are across board. There are many, and so far we have over 600 of them which have signed. That includes Kenya as a country and ANDAC as an agency. It also includes NOC. Our NOC here is also a signatory. For the programs that we carry out in the fight against doping in sport, it includes education and research, which I started with. Then after the education and research, we have the therapeutic use exemption, and we say that's a process of giving exemption to athletes that have genuine medical conditions to participate. We also have a program under testing, and that's where we take samples from athletes in order to test them and see whether they have used any prohibited substances. We also have a program called resource management. That one comes into effect when once an athlete's sample returns a positive result. What sets in is what we call resource management, to know how did they get positive, what happened, who could have doped them, and all that. So that's one of our programs also. Then we have intelligence gathering and investigations, and this one is under the Department of Standard and Compliance. And the purpose of this one is to make sure that we are getting intelligence on who could be doping, and therefore the testings will be effective. So we have that section that carries out investigation to know which athletes or which support personnel could be doping their athletes. The purpose of these programs is to just remain compliant, to make us remain compliant to the code, one of them, and then the standards, and then we have the anti-doping rules. Rules are they are also uniform across board, but every agency is expected to develop their own, customize whatever WADA has given us in order to make them more uniform. So on education, we focus on prevention, and in order to prevent doping through education, we carry out what we call values-based education. And this one, we target children under 14 years. And the purpose is to instill values that a child will grow knowing that everything is not about winning, that you can have your sport, you can play your sport, enjoy the game, and not even win, but you're happy about it. That you don't have to use wrong means in order to win. So that's what we teach in our values-based education. And we are hoping that very soon it will be integrated in our schools curriculum so that the children can be taught from very tender age on how to have values while they are in the field of play. Information sharing, we do it through workshops, and we are doing right now. This is an information sharing, and this one we do it to just to make sure that we are deterring. It's for purposes of deterrence of doping, that we are telling athletes that already know what doping is, that if you dope, these are the consequences. If you are caught tampering, these are the consequences. So we tell them what to expect in case they are doping. We also, this one, as I said, we carry out through workshops and outreach programs. And our target group includes everyone. I can say it's everyone, because an athlete associates with almost everyone. And our purpose is to make sure that we have clean athletes. So we will target the support person, that is the coaches, the teachers, the officials, medical personnel, and we also target media, because media, they are very important to us. For they are able to reach out to a wider group in the fight against doping in sports. So if they could assist us carry out information sharing, that would be very useful to us. Testing is the other key program, and we are under testing. We have two types of testing. We have the in-competition testing and out-of-competition testing. And as I said, testing, we base it on intelligence so that it can be effective, and that we are not wasting our resources. We are catching the cheats. We are not just taking samples and we pay for them and they are coming negative. We want to use our resources to catch the cheat. So that one, we do it through the doping control process. And I'm sure most of you that are participants in rugby, I'm sure most of you have been tested, apart from other organizations, other federations, sorry. Now, I want to tell you who can test, because we've, especially in Kenya, we have seen conmen going to tell athletes that have been sent to test you. But I want to tell athletes that not everyone can test you. Those who are certified to test you include NADOS, that is National Anti-Doping Organizations, like CADAC, RADOS, You know, we are in Africa Zone 5 radar. That one can test you, and your international federation can test you, and International Olympic Committee can test you. Also, we have sometimes major event organizers that are around to test. So not everyone can test. If they come to test, ask them for their identification. They should be carrying an identification card from the organization that has sent them with their photo on it, and signed by the person in charge. Like now, if you get a doping control officer from ANDAC, we expect you to see a photo from that person signed by our CEO. The signature of Mr. Japta Rugut should be on that card. Also, they are given what we call letters of authority letters to allow them test. So they should show you the letters, and they should also show you their cards, identity cards, so that you are not tested by people who are not supposed to. When we take the samples, as I said there before, that we are controlled by the international standard for laboratories. When we take our samples, we take them to WANDA accredited laboratories or WANDA approved laboratories. WANDA accredited, it's a lab that can carry out several analyses. When you hear of WANDA approved most of the times can only carry out maybe one set of analysis. Like we have WANDA approved laboratory in Kenya, Lancet, and they can only do for us, we call it MPP. MPP is Athlete's Biological Passport. So that's the only thing our lab can do. They cannot test for those other analysis. So there are those two types, and these laboratories are spread out across the world. But I just want to mention that in Africa, we only have the fully pledged one, which is WANDA accredited, is in South Africa. Kenya now has the WANDA approved. So those are the only two laboratories that we have in the world. And in the world, we have over 34 WANDA accredited laboratories. Of course, they keep on being suspended if they don't meet the terms and conditions of operation. You find several of them being suspended. So there's no one time that we have the total number operating. You find that they are suspended, and you have to look for where to take your samples. For us, most of our samples, we take them to either South Africa or Qatar. And when these ones were suspended, we were taking our samples to France. So we can take them to whichever laboratory, but you know, the costs also you set in depending on where you are taking them. The increase in transportation and all that. But we take them now to South Africa because South Africa was reinstated, even Qatar was reinstated. While we are testing, we have a document that guides us in how to test, and this one is called Technical Document for Sport-Specific Analysis. This document is there to tell us or to guide us on what should we test in a particular athlete. Like now, in rugby, if I was near you, I would ask you what you think we would be looking for in a rugby player. I believe to be a good player in rugby, you need a lot of strength and speed. So if you are doping, I'm sure you'll be looking for something that can add your strength and that can help you move faster. So we will not test you for something else. We will look for that one which you think you can use. Like let's say steroids. The steroid can add your strength. EPO can make you run faster. So we will not just go looking for something else. That would be a waste of resources. We will look for those specific things. Then This document also guides us to know the minimum that we should analyze in every sample that we take from our athletes. I talked about the athlete's biological passport. This one, it's usually for being effective in testing, catching those who are cheating, because taking a biological passport, the way we carry it out is that your blood will be taken at your normal conditions, and that blood will be analyzed, and you'll see the composition of your blood, you'll see the hemoglobin in it, you see the volume of it and all that. Then they will keep on monitoring that blood. They will be coming for more blood every other time, and maybe after every 2 weeks, maybe 2 months, they will pick your blood and compare with the first one and see what is happening. If they realize that maybe your volume is going up, they will want to know why. If it goes beyond the acceptable volumes, then they will come back to you and test you. So the MBP is just to assist us test effectively. I think I'm through, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Agnes. Thank you so much for that presentation. As we move along, Mr. Charles, and before Charles Omondi comes in, any questions so far? Or we can do the questions after? Okay, just type them and we can read them pole pole, slowly. Mr. Charles, the floor is yours.
Good evening, viewers. This evening, I want to share with you on anti-doping, on doping control process. And I'll start by definition. This is simply collection of samples, or the process of collecting samples from the athletes. And this can be done in what we call in competition or out of competition. In competition is where we have actively in competition, and it's out of competition is where probably in training or when they are at home. That is to say that athletes can be tested, or the samples can be collected from the athletes at any time. The type of samples that we collect from the athletes for the purpose of tests is either urine and or blood. So these are the only two samples that we collect from the athletes. And the process itself for collecting starts by us coming up with a system of collecting, getting to know is going to be tested. And I know this has been a major challenge, especially to the doping control officers, because what the athletes want to know is, why did you pick on me? Why did you select me? And the criteria for selections, the first one we call it the random selection. This is where we select athletes arbitrarily from a pool. If, for example, today I'm told to go to this and this club of rugby and test for us, collect samples from 4 athletes, and I'm not given direction, what I'll do, there are various ways that I can do it. We can even ballot, I can just pick. This is randomly without any direction. And then we have the positional finish. This one comes clearly when we have the individual sports, and we get the doping control officer is directed that we need this position, probably number 1, number 6, number 7. Positional finish does not necessarily mean that they will pick on position 1. No, they can pick on any other position, but this one is normally prearranged. You are given the what we call the mission order, and you are told that you select position this and this and that. So with that one also, it's not possible probably to know whom you are going to test. And thirdly, we have what we call the targeted tests. For the targeted, what will guide us is one, for example, an athlete might have had what we call anti-doping rule, a history of anti-doping rule violation, meaning that either this athlete has a sanction or this athlete has come back. And even if an athlete has a sanction, he still needs to be tested. And when we go for this kind of an athlete, we miss him, we cannot select any other person. It means that this mission, my mission to go and test this kind of an athlete, if I don't get that athlete, I'm not going to test any other person. We also have other reasons why we can have a targeted kind of sample collection. This is where we have a sudden major improvement in an athlete. And lastly, we also have the stage of career where athletes transiting from, let's say, the youth to the senior. Such kind of athletes, we need them to move to the next level when they're also clean. So these all will lead us to have the targeted test. And the process itself starts with what we call the notification. Notification, we have the doping control officer or whom we call or assisted by the chaperone. They will go to the athlete and notify the athlete. But before you notify the athlete, they will introduce themselves. The way my director said that he will show you the identity cards, and will also need to show you what we call the authorization letter. The authorization letter enables the athlete to get to know who is interested in his or her sample. Once the athlete has been notified, he will also need to produce his identification to prove that he's the one, and he will be told his rights. The chaperone or the DCO will guide him on his rights. And his rights are like, he has a right to get a representative. If he's a minor, he'll have to be accompanied. If probably he just needs somebody, a coach, the medic to go together with him, that is allowed. He also can request for modification, but this one will only apply where there is needs, depending on this, on the state of the athlete. He also has a right for additional information from the doping control officer. He has a right also to delay reporting to the doping control station. And doping control station here is not a permanent place. We normally set up a temporary place, a temporary structure, or a temporary office where all this work can be done. And this is where I refer to as the doping control station. He also has a right to comment on the sample collection procedure. This athlete also has obligations. The first one that you'll be told is that immediately after being notified that he has been selected for the doping control, he must remain within the direct observation of the doping control officer or the chaperone. It is his obligation to ensure that he is within the areas where he can be observed by the chaperone, not the chaperone or the doping control officer to look for him or her. He also has an obligation to produce his identification. And this, we talk of the photo identification, and it should be his identification. He also has an obligation to comply with the procedures. This procedure being new to the athlete, or even if he's experienced, he will be directed by the doping control officer, and he has an obligation to comply with the procedures. Each and every direction has a purpose. So he has to make sure that he complies with it. Immediately he has been notified, he should report the doping control station. And he must ensure, he also has an obligation to maintain control of his or her sample. This one should not be left to any other person other than the athletes. Reporting the doping control station should be immediately. However, there might be delays, and these delays could be on the following grounds. In case it is in competition, and the participants or the athletes needs to participate in the award ceremony, then this athlete will be allowed to go and participate in the award ceremony. However, he must always remember that he has an obligation to make sure that he is where the chaperone or the doping control officer can easily see him or her. He has probably media commitments. He needs to be interviewed. When this one happens, then the athlete has a right for a delay. Competing in further competitions, probably after he has been selected, there's other competitions coming up. This may also cause a delay, or performing the warm down. Other grounds may be he needs to obtain necessary medical treatment. In case he has an injury and needs to be attended to by a medical person, it means that he will be allowed to be attended to before he reports to the doping control station. Locating a representative or an interpreter. He might be needing an interpreter, or he needs a representative from his club. He may try to locate him, and then this may also result to a delay. Obtaining photo identification, very important. When you're in the field, probably don't have your photo identification and you need to get it, you'll be allowed to go with the chaperone or the doping control officer to go and get it. Lastly, any other exceptional circumstance. You may request for a delay, but that is not a guarantee until you are granted by the doping control officer that yes, you have been granted, you can have a delay, then with that one, you can continue to have a delay. But if it is declined, please, very important, the athlete should just oblige and go to the report to the doping control station immediately. When out of competition, this is when we visit, the delays could be because he wants to locate a representative. Probably you come to a training venue, the medical doctor needs to be there, then he needs to locate him. Please, that may also cause a delay. Completing a training session. If I arrive at your training venue and you have already started your training, please, you'll be allowed to continue your training until you finish your training session. Or receiving necessary medical treatment, obtaining photo identification, or any other exceptional circumstance may cause an out of competition delay to report to the doping control station. When it now doping control station, athletes, and there are vessels that we use, transportation bottles for the samples. The athlete will do the paperwork, and if he feels pressed, he will now collect the vessel. But before he collects the vessel, he or she must wash her hands, ensure that he washes the hands using the running water without soap or any other detergent. Once she has done that, the hands should be dried using the natural way, not using any other thing like any other cloth or using the trousers or the vest. No, he just dries the hand naturally. But because of the current situation now of the pandemic, athletes may choose to use the gloves. That one is also allowed. He cleans the hands, he rinses the hands, and then he will be given gloves. He selects and puts on the gloves. The collection vessel, the athlete will be given 3 of these vessels. He'll be given 3 of these vessels. After picking the vessel, he will be accompanied by the same gender to go and give, or rather to go and release the urine into the vessel. You can see from the picture, from the demonstration here, the doping control officer or the chaperone of the same gender will observe and making sure that it is clear and unobstructed view to making sure that this sample is coming from the body of the athlete. The athlete will be required to roll the sleeves of the shirts, to roll up the vest, and the trousers should be up to the knee level, making sure that where the sample is coming from, the urine is coming from, is not obstructed. The athlete up to that point will be carrying the sample collection kit and collect the urine by himself. And we require a minimum of 90 ml at that particular moment. Where it's not possible to get the 90 ml, then the athlete will go back and whatever has been collected will be preserved. The athlete will make sure that he observes it. He should not give it to anybody. And it is be put in what we call, we call it the partial collection kit. It will be sealed until such a time that the athlete is now ready to go and give the additional or the remaining quantity. The reason why we have an obstructed view is simply because we have gadgets that some athletes might be using. For example, we have these artificial gadgets that if we don't observe where the urine is coming from, it could be coming from other places, probably like a catheter, joined together with the gadgets that you are seeing for both for the male and for the female. And these might not be what we are trying to collect. That is why we make sure that we say that we have seen where that this sample has come from the body of the athlete. Once he has collected the 90 ml, the athlete will take the sample back to the doping control station where the doping control officer will guide him to split the samples into two. The first sample will be poured into bottle, what you call bottle B. Remember, you have two bottles. One is bottle A, the other one is bottle B. And these bottles are packaged. And each package has the two bottles with the same numbers, everything the same. Only that one is bottle A, the other one is bottle B. The athlete will be given more than a minimum of 3 boxes to collect, one to pick one. So he'll pick and make sure that it is sealed, the seal has not been broken. And if he's now satisfied, he'll go ahead, open the bottles and split the samples. Remember, all this work is being done by the athletes. He will pour in 30 ml in bottle B and then 60 ml in bottle A. We shall leave a small portion on the collection kits for the purpose that I'm going to explain later. Once he has split the samples into 2 bottles, he will make sure that he removes the red ring and ensure that he tightens the cover. These are bottles, these are special bottles that once you have locked it, it cannot be unlocked unless it is only done in the laboratory. He will now be advised to make sure that there is no leakage. So making sure that he places the bottle on the table with the heads down. This will help him to know that there is no leakage. Then he'll now take them back to the kit where he got them. The reason why we left some samples, some small urine on the collection vessel is simply to measure the specific gravity. And this is done via, you can use the stick or refractometer. If it is realized that the sample is too dilute, it means that the athlete will now have to give what we call an additional sample. The process will continue. They will seal everything. They will test and record it. Then the process from the start, where we now collect another 90 ml from the athletes. And this can be done twice. Once the third one is not, then a report will be written. It's very important when you are coming to records, we advise the athletes to be very composed and very settled, because in most cases, they forget the issue of medications. There's a question he or she will be asked whether there's any medicine that he or she has been using for the last 7 days, or if this athlete has been using any supplements. Please, any athlete listening, you need to let the doping control officer know. You write by your own handwriting the kind of medication you are on or the supplements that you are using. This is very important to our athletes. You have a right to comment regarding the doping control session. As we have, once you have written the medication, you'll also be asked about your feeling. If you feel that it went on well, please just feel free and write your comments. In most cases, athletes say that it was okay, but later when issues come up, they say that everything was not okay. Please, whatever you write there will be final. Then, very important, confirm the codes. Confirm the codes on the bottles, because your name is not going to the laboratory. The codes that you are recording, that is what will be used in the movement of your samples. So confirm that the codes are also correctly indicated. And very important, make sure that information that you have given, all of them are very accurate. Don't just sign for the sake of signing. Sign that you are satisfied that everything that is recorded there is what you had agreed. Once you have finished, the sample will now be transported using what we call the chain of custody. It will be taken to the laboratories, and this one is an assurance that they are usually very secure, very safe. And with that small presentation, that is what we call the doping control process for urine. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Charles Omondi. Any questions so far? Anyone? Any question before we move on? Okay, our second last presentation is from Walter, I believe. Is it Walter or is it?
Yes, yes, it's Walter.
Yes, Walter, please come online and we continue.
All right. Good evening once more. This is Walter, as you've been told, Omwenga, and I'll do our third presentation on the anti-doping rule violations. Basically, these are rules. If you break, you will get a sanction. I think most of us have heard about sanction, and if you break any of these, you're likely to get a sanction. And this one will broaden our scope on the definition of what doping is, because I'm very sure majority of us associate doping with testing positive for a prohibited substance. But the scope is broad, whereby we say now in this scenario, doping is basically breaking any of the 10 anti-doping rules. If you break any, you're doping, and each one of these has a different sanction. Remember, they are applicable to athletes and their support personnel, but there are some that touch on only all athletes, but there are a few which touch on support personnel. That one said, also remember, once you're sanctioned for a rule you've broken, it means you cannot participate in your sport nor any other sport. And it even goes further to say you cannot associate with active athletes who are in the field. Some bans might be for a lifetime, depending on the violation that you've broken. The first one that all of us, I think, when we've heard in media and everywhere, is presence. As you are told, samples are normally collected during the doping control process. They are sent to the lab, and the results come back positive for a prohibited substance. That one basically means there was presence of a prohibited substance, and that one is sanctionable. The prohibited substance, you will be told later what they are. These are substances that as athletes, you're not supposed to use, because in one way or another, they make you perform better than your opponent, and that is not fair. Then there is use or attempted use of a prohibited substance. For this one, it's not a must for your sample to be tested. There's almost 4 ways through which the use or attempted use can be ascertained. For example, if you admit as an athlete, and this is one thing that we always encourage athletes, kindly, if you know you've been doping, there's no need of taking us in circles when you know very well you can admit, and maybe this one later on will be to your advantage in terms of reduction of your sanction. attempted use. There can be documentary evidence that shows you've been doping. In addition to the documentary evidence, again, the director mentioned something about longitudinal profiling, that is ABP. From the ABP, a conclusion can be made that this person has been doing what? Has been doping. So all of these can prove use or attempted use. Then we have a third one, another violation that we call evading, refusing, or failing to submit. Evading is basically running away from the anti-doping team. You know they are coming, then you decide, because I'm not very sure what I've been using, or I know I've been doping, let me disappear. You refuse. This one comes in when you've been notified. I think you've heard Charles say they'll notify you, they'll produce identification. They notify you, then you refuse. I'm not giving you the sample. For example, you'll say, I want my lawyer around, because this is my right for the lawyer to be here. But you see, I don't see the reason why an athlete should be able to refuse for this, because it's part of the process of being an athlete. Then there is failing to submit. You've been taken to a doping control station, then you've been shown the kit, then you decide, you hold on to the urine, for example, which means you're failing to submit your sample, and this is also sanctionable. Then we have missed tests, filing failures. One of the things that has affected, or one of the violations that has really affected our Kenyan athletes, in that they are athletes, mostly high priority athletes, who are put in something we call RTP, Registered Testing Pool. The essence of this is to know their whereabouts. Where are they? Where will they be training? So that our teams who take the samples can visit the place, because we never inform them we are coming, as you were told early. Now they're supposed to file their whereabouts daily, a 60-minute period. That is 1 hour daily for a period of 3 months. We call it a quarter. So that they tell us, give us directions. If you will be in the farm, say I'll be in the farm. My farm is here. You can take this road, clearly indicate the directions. Additionally, you are allowed to update them. If you fail to file them or to update them, what will happen? You will have a filing failure. But if you file, then you miss to update and you move from the location in which you are, the anti-doping team comes, misses you at that place, you will have a missed test. And if you have a combination 3 of these, either 3 missed tests, 3 filing failures, or a combination of any of these 3 within 1 year, that is a 12-month period, then you will be sanctioned, not even likely. We have interfering with doping control processes. These are people, and I think, I'm not saying the rugby people might be a little bit violent, but you see most of them are well built. So don't threaten the anti-doping team when they come. Don't give wrong information, because all those are forms of tampering. Giving wrong information to the anti-doping team, tampering with the process. You decide to add something into your urine. You're not supposed to add something into your urine or your sample. And additionally, you're not supposed to take them in circles, because you've been notified. Take the process so that the DCP process goes as planned or as it's supposed to be. We have another violation, which is possession of a prohibited substance. It can be a method or it can be a substance. Rugby people need body, need muscle, so probably you're likely to decide, let me use steroids. Or maybe because, you know, when people smoke bang, I hear, don't ask me how, I know, but I've heard and I've read, when people take bang somehow, it will cloud your judgment so that you can use all of the force that you need, you see. So you're likely to be tempted to possess this. And you see, in the prohibited list, this is not supposed to be possessed by an athlete, which means if you caught with it in itself is a violation. Then there's trafficking or attempted trafficking. All of us love money, love doing business, so we are likely to be tempted to, in one way or another, sell products that we feel this group of athletes require. And if you caught for that one, remember again, it's illegal. Some substances are illegal in some countries, so you'll go in for it. There is administration. This again goes to support personnel and even athletes. You know, these are prohibited substance. Then you're trying to administer into your fellow athlete, or this support personnel is trying to administer into the athlete. That is wrong. You'll be violating one of our rules and you will be sanctioned for that. There is complicity. Now, this again touches on athlete support personnel and athletes themselves. Complicity basically means you're helping an athlete or a person who is breaking an anti-doping rule to get away with it. You are abetting the process. If it's proved beyond reasonable doubt that this is what you're doing, you will be in for it, because that is a big violation that is also sanctionable. Then we have prohibited association. Now, this one basically means this. There is an athlete or a support personnel who has been banned or who is serving something that we call a period of ineligibility. It means in this period that they are serving their sanction, in a sports way, they are not supposed to associate with other athletes. Then you find yourself associating with them, you're likely to be sanctioned for this, because, take an example of a policeman running after thugs. Then you hide somewhere in the middle of the people. The policeman cannot ask you, okay, who is the thug here? They are likely to kill everyone for the sake of security of the nation. So that is why prohibited association, again, is one of the violations, and a very big violation. Now, you've tested positive, your sample has come back positive. What follows is something that we call the results management process, because anti-doping organizations or any testing authority does not just sanction you without you going through results management. There will be the initial review of the findings from the lab. You will be notified. And this is where you're told, if you know you've been doping, and as an athlete or as an athlete support personnel, you violated one of the anti-doping rules, just admit, because it makes it easier for your case to go through. You're given your sanction, you serve it faster without taking the concerned entities in circles, which might lead even to you being added another sanction. During results management, your hearing will be timely, fair and impartial. You can't be represented. Remember, you can't defend yourself. Present evidence. For example, somebody has been sick, somebody has been taking medication, and you see they have the evidence as much as they never knew, and that is not an excuse, because as an athlete, you're supposed to know. You can present that. Remember, if you don't understand the language or everything that is being said, you have the right to an interpreter, and you can have a timely, reasoned decision. Then, after everything, results management, now it's the sanction. Presence, use or attempted use, possession, you will get 4 years, which can be reduced. It's not like it's a must, to 2 years if, one, you test positive for something we call a specified substance. These are substances that you can get over the counter, and somehow they have a credible medical explanation why you are possessing or you tested positive for this. But remember, it's up to you to prove to us why you committed this. There's another one that we call an unspecified one. This one, basically, when you have an unspecified substance, you'll have it for doping. There is no any other reason why you should have this. For example, today get you with bang. The only reason why you'll have bang, it's for doping. So that is unspecified. But if you prove beyond reasonable doubt, I had this bang for ABCD reasons I don't know, then you're likely to do what? To get a reduction of your sanction. Then we have evading, refusing or failing to submit. Tampering, you'll get 4 years, which can be reduced to 2 years if you prove you breaking this rule was not intentional. We have whereabouts failures, which I've told you has really affected most of our athletes, 1 to 2 years. Trafficking and administration, you can get 4 years to a lifetime ban, which means your life in sports is over. If it's an illegal substance in the country in which you are, for example, in Kenya, you will go in to serve another sentence. Now we hand you over to the police. Complicity will give you 2 to 4 years. Prohibited association will give you 1 to 2 years. Now, you've been given your sanction. It can be eliminated on one condition. You are sabotaged by an opponent, and on your side, there was no fault or negligence. Get it clear? That is the only condition that maybe may lead to the elimination of your sanction. But otherwise, the rest will come with reductions. If you prove there was no significant fault from your side, you are not negligent, it was a specified substance, then non-specified, and you prove for real, you had it for not doping, you used a contaminated product, or you offer the anti-doping organization substantial assistance, or admit. I want to emphasize on the last two, and this is to our athletes or the athlete support personnel. Kindly, if you know doping is going somewhere or happening somewhere, When you help us to unearth this menace, or even discover it, or even know another committed anti-doping rule violation, then you're likely to get a reduction. Or admit, if you know you've been doping, there's no need to take anti-doping organizations, in circles, and you know very well you have been doping. Now, you've been given your sanction, but you feel like you don't deserve that. There are avenues for appeal. The anti-doping organizations are not here to press you down. No, they are here basically to make sure sports are clean. So there are avenues for national athletes and international athletes. For national ones, there will be a national appeal panel that will be formed for you in case you need to appeal the sanction. For international athletes, there is CAS. All of us, I think, know it, the Court of Arbitration of Sport. You can present your case there and it will be listened to. In terms of appeals, just as we said in the hearing, it will be impartial, it will be fair, you have the right to be represented, and within a time that does not inconvenience you or does not disadvantage an athlete or the involved person, you will be given the outcome of your case. Otherwise, from me, that is all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. Any questions so far? Anyone? Everything is so clear. No need for questions. Yes? You are breaking up. Yes, you are breaking up. So what I can do for now is push the questions to the end until you sort out the audio. But for now, we move to Ronnie Sumba from Madak. Asante sana, Ronnie. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Asante sana. All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronnie. Welcome to the new normal, where we have to teach through some applications. So I'm going to be doing the prohibited list. So this is a very important topic, by the way. This is a list that actually identifies every substance that has been prohibited in sports. It's one single list. Doesn't mean that ADAC has its own list, the World Anti-Doping Agency has its own list. No, it's just one list for everyone in sports to use. So this list is revised every year. So we have a new list, 2020 list. It's the one in effect right now. If you want to download the list, you can just Google 2020 prohibited list, utaipata pale kwa website. For the sake of our Kenyan speakers, I think if I use a bit of Swahili, it's a bit better for us to be able to understand each other. But I'll be translating, I'll be a pastor. I'll be doing both English and Swahili. I hope that's okay with you. All right. So for a substance to be included to the prohibited list, it must meet 2 of 3 criteria that have been set up by the World Anti-Doping Agency. First, it should have the potential to enhance performance. Okay, we are talking about sports, so sports performance. So it can also represent an actual health risk to a person. If you take this substance, it's really bad for your health. It also violates the spirit of sport. Spirit of sport, fair play. So if you're injecting something in your body, you're in the field, makes you really angry, you're hitting everyone in the field, that's not a good substance. So if the substance meets 2 of the 3 criteria, it's included in the prohibited list. Now, if you download the prohibited list, you'll see that there are substances that have been named as specified and unspecified. So what are specified substances? Substances that are more susceptible to a credible non-doping explanation. Meaning, if you're found with the presence of such a substance, you are able to explain that I was not doping, maybe. I was just maybe taking some medication. That's why this substance is here. Hizi ni zile substances zinaweza nunuliwa kwa chemist, rahisi sana. Okay. Now, non-specified substances are the direct opposite of that. Substances that are less likely to have a non-doping explanation. Ukipatikana na bangi kwa mwili, utasema unafanya nini? Unaongeza nguvu ama unafanya nini? You know, substances like that. So the contents of the list are sectioned as prohibited at all times, in competition only, and in particular sports. So we'll start with substances that are prohibited at all times. Allow me to skip over substances that are not particular to maybe rugby, okay? So we'll start with non-approved substances. These are substances, okay, that have no current approval for human therapeutic use. You know, substances that have gone through some tests, zimefika pahali, zimekataliwa, KEBS wamesema hapana, these substances are not supposed to be used by humans, or substances that actually treat animals, okay? You know, like you might find a substance like that is able to be injected to a cow, you know, that will make you stronger. These substances zimekatazwa, okay? They are prohibited. We have anabolic agents. Of course, we know what steroids are. Steroids, the ones that make you really huge, yeah, those ones are prohibited. Peptide hormones, not for rugby specifically. Now, we have beta-2 agonists. What are beta-2 agonists? Substances that open up your airways. We all know of asthma, I'm sure. Asthma, ile disease ya ukifinya kakitu, you know, it opens up your airways. I'm sure you know about asthma. So the inhaler that people use contains some substances known as beta-2 agonists, like formoterol, salmeterol, salbutamol, you know. They open up your airways when you use them, so your lungs become huger, your trachea, you're able to breathe a little bit better. Those are substances prohibited in sports. So if you have asthma, this will be the next presentation, I think next week. You have to apply for something we call a therapeutic use exemption. I hope I'm clear on that. Now, the next category are substances that are known as hormone and metabolic modulators. Substances such as insulin, you know, insulin is able to break down your sugars in your body in a quick fashion. So if you inject insulin, it becomes extra in your body. You're able to get more energy from the breakage of these sugars in your body. Diuretics, not for you. Manipulation of blood and its components. I'd love to use an example here. So normally we have about 7 liters of 6 to 7 liters of blood in our bodies. So you can draw out some blood, get about maybe a liter after a period of time, of course, then re-inject this blood in your body after some time, after the blood that was drawn out has been regenerated in your body. So you have about 8 liters. What has increased in your body? The red blood cells, which transport oxygen. When oxygen is transported in a quicker fashion in your body, means you have more energy. You're stronger, you know, you don't get tired that fast. So that's why manipulation of blood and its components is a prohibited method. We have chemical and physical manipulation. My colleague Walter has talked about tampering or attempting to tamper. We know what that is. And there's urine substitution. You're borrowing your girlfriend's urine because you know maybe ADAC has come to test you. When we test you, we find out that you're pregnant and your name is Kevin. Does not make any sense. You substituted the urine, all right? We have adulteration. You're trying to manipulate some chemical particles in the urine, so that when you test the urine, we see that this substance is not there, the substance that you've been using, all right? Lastly, we have intravenous infusions. Intravenous infusions have been prohibited in sports past 100 milliliters, except in hospital scenarios. So unless you're getting an injection in the hospital directly to your veins, it's been prohibited. You're not supposed to inject anything, glucose, water, anything like that. It's prohibited in sports, all right? Now we are on substances that are prohibited in competition. They include all those substances that I've mentioned, plus stimulants. Stimulants, we talked about specified and unspecified. Non-specified, like cocaine, you know, when we find you with cocaine, what are you trying to do with cocaine in your body, right? We have narcotics, which dull your senses and relieve your pain, such as morphine. We all know about morphine and heroin, okay? Favorite category over here, cannabinoids, all right? Cannabis, bangi, we all know what that is. So we have natural ones, the ones in the shamba, and we have synthetic ones. It does not matter. Anything that is known as a cannabinoid has been prohibited in sports. So bang smokers, bang eaters, so I hear in Apikwa, it's cooked nowadays, yeah? It's been prohibited in sports. Glucocorticoids or glucocorticosteroids are a class of steroid hormones that open up your airways, same as beta-2 agonists. They open up your airways, they enable you get better treatment. I don't know if you ever had this kind of a really bad flu, blockage on your nose. You're given a type of an inhaler, you spray through your nose. It contains what we call glucocorticoids, prednisolone as an example. Most of the flu medication contains this. So you have to be really careful. You have to be in line with the prohibited list. I will not go through substances that are prohibited in particular sports because there is none that is prohibited for rugby. Now, we have one principle. We call it the principle of strict liability. Anything that goes in your body, you're ultimately responsible for it. You're not allowed to give excuses. Oh, okay, you can tell us, maybe this guy gave it to me, maybe my coach has been giving this to me, you know, it's a rule that I have to take this substance. Yeah, you can justify yourself and say that, but you're the one who's going to be responsible for anything that is going in your body, whether by injection, whether by ingesting, you know, whether you're inhaling this substance, whether you're applying it topically, does not matter. You're the one who is responsible. I think I'm done over there. That's my presentation. That's the prohibited list. Thank you.
Ombo, Mike?
Yes, I am here with you.
Yeah, like those are our presentations. Before you go to questions, question time, I wanted to add that ADAC, we developed an e-learning platform, which is very elaborate. So what we're giving you is just a portion out of that. But if you go online, you get very detailed notes for each topic. And after the notes, you are able to go to proceed to the questions. If you get the pass mark, which is 80%, you'll be able to print your own certificate online. If you fail, there is an option of repeating. You're given another option to redo or retake the course. You start again, reading the notes, going back to the questions and answering. And you're also able to pause at some point if you're not able to finish. When you open one module, you can take your time up to 29 days before you complete the course. But if the 29 days elapses, then you'll be able to, you'll be required to restart afresh. So those are some of the conditions on our e-learning. It's a very useful platform. I will encourage everyone, the analysts and our support personnel, to log into it and get more information, especially at this time of COVID-19, because we are not able to go out there and give them the information face to face. So please, I'm using this platform to just encourage our people to go online and get the information from them. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Director. We've also had a number of viewers watching from Sri Lanka and Turkey. They've also been part of this audience here today. And we've had one question from Boniface Solano on YouTube. He was asking whether you'll be taking these initiatives to the universities.
Let me take that. Yeah, it's not like we'll be taking it to the universities. We've already done it. We've been working with the universities. I remember last year we had a workshop for over 200 students who are doing sports in Kenyatta University. We collaborated with the university. We took them through the course and we even certified them. So that would be our desire, that where the universities are having these courses in sport, before these students come out, because like the Kenyatta University, we had the 4 years who are about to get out of the university. If we could, the university could invite us to do these workshops for them when they are students who are taking sport, are about to complete their courses, we will appreciate very much. But we've also been doing sensitization through outreach programs. Anytime we have the university games, you find us there. We set our tents and we are able to synthesize the participants that come to our tent at their own timings. So we are always available for them. So it's not like we are starting to work with the universities, we are already there. And in fact, we have an educator who is a university lecturer, Mr. Dr. Festus Kiplamai from Kenyatta University. He'll be speaking to you next Friday on issues of food supplements and sports nutrition, because that is his area. So we are already collaborating, but those universities that don't know we are doing that, they can invite us and you'll be able to talk to their students before they leave the university. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. We have a comment from Simon Odongo from Homeboys. He says, this is a great session. We should have this every season, especially with every players involved. And obviously you can see, Adak, that you've been looking for us, but now you're welcome. You can see the reception that has come through. We also have in this panel this evening, John Bosco Mwamba from Rugby Africa. Remember, Kenya Rugby is an affiliate of Rugby Africa, and we'd like him to just say something as the overall governor of rugby in Africa. So John Bosco Mwamba from Rugby Africa, I would like you to just give a comment before we wind up.
Okay, thank you, Kwambo. I'd just like to say thank you to ADAC and Kenya Rugby for this collaboration. It's quite important that our stakeholders, our players, coaches, and everyone else involved in the game actually learn about these anti-doping practices. As a country, I know we've come a long way. Rugby has not been left out. We had some cases earlier, maybe 2002, if you remember, those who are around that time. So I think going forward, would be very important so that actually players understand what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And we all advocate for clean sport. So thank you very much, and hope to see you again next week.
All right, thank you. Those are, I think we will take 2 more questions. We had planned to close it, but there's some questions which are a bit weighty, and I think would like to indulge you, the team from ADAC, to answer them. First, there's a question regarding what kind of supplements would probably lead you to register a positive test when it comes down to the doping test. And then the second one is, a number of us love taking coffee. So kindly shed light on coffee and in relation to doping. Yeah, those are the 2 questions.
Okay, Mike, I think I'll take that. First, I want to talk on the use of food supplements. We will be having a whole topic next Friday on food supplements, as I said, and sports nutrition. However, let me say that as ANDAC, we don't clear any food supplement for use by any athlete. And the speaker next week will tell you so, that food supplements could be declared free of prohibited substances. But in most cases, these are commercial substances. People are selling to make money. They will not explicitly declare that they have some prohibited substances inside there because they want you to buy. So countries, the developed countries, then they are able to control the food supplement. Why? Because they have regulations on food supplements. Kenya, we don't have any regulation. Anyone can produce anything. So they may be important from out there, but as we know, in Kenya, we have crooks. You get the same label of that food supplement from River Road. You don't know what is inside that food supplement. So what we encourage our athletes is to eat natural. Forget about food supplement, because you never know, especially while you are in Kenya here, whether what you're using is actually clean. So food supplements, as ANDAC, we don't clear any. We tell them no food supplements. What was the next? The use of coffee. Oh, yes. Use of coffee. I remember when ANDAC came into force in 2016, that issue of coffee was blown out of proportion at some point. That ANDAC clears athletes, ANDAC declares coffee prohibited, which was not true. Coffee has been on the waiting list. Is it waiting list? What do you call it? The list, monitoring list. Coffee was on the monitoring list for WADA because they wanted to check and see whether it is adding any performance, it's improving any performance in any way. But this last time when they were reviewing the prohibited list, they even removed it from that monitoring list. So coffee, as far now as we are concerned, according to WADA, has no effect. We are told that unless you take, I don't know how many kilos of it, so many cups of it, that's when it can have some effect. But the normal coffee you take, it might not enhance your performance in any way. So I can't say coffee has any effect. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Still a few more comments from Charles Ngovi. He says, thank you for this session. The substances on the prohibited list have scientific names. For simplicity, is there a list with products that have the substances in them?
So Ronnie will answer that.
All right. Yes, I agree. The prohibited list is a complicated one. What we can do as athletes, I mean athletes, everyone in sports, we should go around with the prohibited list to your doctor. When you're going to take any medication, tell your doctor that you're an athlete, have the prohibited list with you, show him the prohibited list, and then he'll be able to guide you from there. No, there is no list with products that are simplified in any way, just what we have from WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency.
Right,
to add on that, Mike, I want to add on that. This list, the athletes and the support personnel can download it. They can download it from their website and carry it on their phones. What we tell our athletes is that it's a no-no for personal treatment. You don't treat yourself. Go to a doctor and tell them I'm an athlete and this is the list. I'm not supposed to take anything from this list. So when you treat yourself, you know, there are those medications that you can buy off the counter, as Ronnie explained. Those medications, like the most ones are, the common ones are for cold. You can buy them off the counter and you think they're safe. You'll be found positive for a very small thing that you have done. So instead of thinking, anyway, it's just a cold, let me buy this medication. Don't do it as an athlete. Let the doctor give you the proper medication because they know what has the prohibited substance in them. So that list, we have also resolved it, and we have a very small booklet that we'll be giving out to our athletes where they are able to pocket it. They are able to carry it in their pocket and walk with the list wherever they go. If they are not able to download on their phones, then they can carry the small book in their pocket. So thank you, Mike.
All right, Charles Ngovi, I believe you've gotten a comprehensive answer. Still have another question from somebody who's watching on Facebook, on YouTube, I beg your pardon. This is Mike Shamia. He asks about Red Bull and Monster, and basically energy drinks. Are they safe?
It's in the next presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, that will be the next presentation because that's where the food supplement, that's part of food supplement. But what I tell our athletes, if that Red Bull is able to enhance your performance and you feel a difference, then be very careful because you don't know what it has such that it's able to give you back your energy. So if you think it has something extra, don't take it. But I'm not saying it is prohibited. I'm not saying it because it's it's a drink. And as I say, these drinks, some are safe, some you never tell whether they are safe or not. It's like we used to give our sports people glucose when they finish. We used to give them that glucose those days. These days, I don't know whether they are still being given. But these days, you cannot even risk that because you don't know whether this is the proper glucose, where it was just food, which was with sugars broken into those bits that the body can consume and get back its energy naturally. So we don't encourage anything. So I will not, we are not saying Red Bull is good, neither. So it's upon the athletes to make the decision. Thank you.
All right, I believe that has been answered well. The last two comments from Moto Williams, wonderful session. It was a great refresher course for me. Let's keep rugby clean. Samuel Ochieng from Homeboy says, good initiative, keep it up. So to everybody who took the time to join us on this Friday evening, thank you so much. We hope that you're a lot more enlightened. Remember, we still have more next week with the second session from Kenya Rugby Union in collaboration with the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. So thank you very much, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Asanteni nyote. Have a good night
Thank
and
you
a
so
good
much.
weekend.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.